Hope you guys like the soundtrack for this video. Also, fun fact, I already filmed this video and then I lost the footage. I'm sitting down here to film it again. It's another book recommendation video, which I haven't done in a long time, and so I thought it was about time not only to do a book rec video, but to do trademark, well, I'd like to think that it's a trademark video of mine, which is an enemies to lovers book rec video. My favorite trope. If you don't know, now you know. Enemies to lovers girl till I die. I've read so many enemies to lovers books since I filmed my last enemies to lovers video, so I thought that I would share all the ones I would recommend to you guys. Haters will hate, but I genuinely think that a well done enemies to lovers will always outperform a well done friends to lovers in the Sunny Kim cinematic universe. Something about it. Something about. Also, it's just my opinion that enemies to lovers works the best in a fantasy. It's like pretty rare. But I genuinely love a contemporary enemies to lovers. I've talked about that before. I just don't think anything is ever that deep. That's why I've separated this video into a fantasy slash dystopia section and then a contemporary section at the end, so you guys can skip to whichever one you want. I have like 12, 13-ish books for you guys. So that's a lot of books, so I'm just gonna try to low-key blast through them as much as I can, as quick as I can. We're gonna go ahead and start with our fantasy slash dystopia. We're starting off so strong with One for My Enemy by Olivia B. Blake. If you don't know, Olivia B. Blake is one of my favorite authors and one of the only authors that I think she's like in the holy trinity of like authors that I trust to do like a subplot of romance really, really well. So I read One for My Enemy is a standalone fantasy for all you hoes who are scared of commitment. It's like an urban fantasy type of situation. It's placed in New York City. There's these two rivaling witch families. We have the Antonova sisters and then the Fedorov brothers. There's bare characters in this book. Families have always had a rivalry, but it's like nothing that personal until the beginning of this book. When it does become personal, it opens up with the first like attack, and then that instigates all of these like war games. There's not just one, but actually many subplots of romance. There's like two main subplots of romance. Basically, each family sends the youngest of their siblings like spy on the other family, and of course they've never met each other. Of course, first time out on the job, they run into each other at the bar, but they don't know who each other are, and sparks fly. But favorite trope, hidden identities, enemies to lovers type of situation, and forbidden romance. Also, if you are crying and throwing up and scared of reading fantasy, I think that you should read this book because the magic actually is like the least confusing part of this book. Next, we have Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Workplace rivals slash academic rivals to lovers type of situation. We have Iris and a Roman. They're both working in like a newspaper company and they both want the same promotion. And then Iris's brother went off to war a couple years ago, but then she hasn't been able to get in contact with him. And so she starts writing these letters on her typewriter to her brother. She puts it under the door of her wardrobe and they end up disappearing. And so she's just assuming that they're going to her brother, but nope, because who does it go to? That's right, it goes to Roman, and she doesn't realize that Roman is reading all of her like deepest, most emotional, intimate, private thoughts that she's putting into these letters. So it's again, hidden identities, enemies to lovers, which is my favorite flavor of enemies to lovers. Except Roman figures out pretty soon that it's Iris, so it's like one person knows, the other person doesn't, but she has no idea. She still hates him in the workplace. So it's like such a fun dynamic when they're in the workplace because Roman will like do little things and stuff to like show that he cares for her, but then homegirl has no idea. She does not like Roman. And she's also dealing with her own stuff. She low-key has bigger fish to fry. It has one of my favorite tropes ever. Oh my gosh, I love this trope so much. It's like when one of them is injured trying to save the other person and then the other person goes to see them in the hospital afterwards. Oh my, if you love that trope, you read this book because sis, it ate. Next, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I know. Which like, why am I recommending The Hunger Games in 2023? As if Hunger Talk is not making an Empire Strikes Back strike back. If you don't know, this book came out like a long time after The Hunger Games. And it's like a prequel companion story about President Snow, who's like the main antagonist in the book. So it's kind of like a villain origin story. So that's like all I thought that it was. So I wasn't that interested in reading it until I figured out that it actually is the best enemies to lovers plot I've ever seen in my life. And so now I need to like make sure that everybody knows. Also so that everyone can go watch the movie with me this November. I literally haven't been so excited for a movie. Oh my god. I genuinely have not been so excited to watch a movie in the movie theaters like opening night. I think the last time that happened was like the last Maze Runner movie. My sisters and I, we went to go watch it together, except the only screening was like in this special theater that was like more expensive because then we just bought Paddington Bear 2 tickets and then we snuck into that theater. Anyway, I'm very excited. Yes, we follow young Cornelius Snow. He's like teenager age in the capital and it's following the 10th Hunger Game. This year was the first year where they tried doing this mentorship thing, which if you know know the story, then you know that basically previous victors of a district will mentor the current tributes. So this is the first year that they put into effect this mentorship thing, except instead of like previous victors, it was like all these random schoolboys from this elite private school in the capital. They were each assigned to the tributes of this year's Hunger Games. And so Cornelius is obviously assigned to who? The District 12 girl tribute. Her name's Lucy. Lucy is like a very rebellious kind of tribute who immediately she snatches up the attention of like the media. So he kind of gets more committed. So he kind of starts caring a little bit more. What happens? They fall in love. I'm sorry, is that not the best Hunger Games plot you've ever heard in your life? Like, Susie, you're preaching to the choir. Like a mentor falling in love with their tribute who they know is gonna die in the games. Like, is that not the best thing ever? And then on top of that, it's enemies to lovers because one of them part of the capital and she is the lowest district. So not only is that horrendous and unforgivable in the eyes of society, but Cornelius also has bare prejudices against the districts, and you can tell that it's so indoctrinated in the way that he grew up as a capital person. You see him kind of like dismantling those prejudices through falling in love with Lucy. You literally forget that it's a villain origin story. Like, he seems to be going in the right trajectory. So I was so pleasantly surprised by this book, and I'm so excited for the movie because not only is the romance so spicy, the games are also, oh my gosh, I literally cannot wait to see it on the screen. Also, Hunter Schafer is in the movie, so you gotta go watch the movie. Okay, next we have The Winner's Curse by Marie Rukowski. This one is another kind of like fantasy dystopia-ish. There's not really like magic in it. It's just like a rain kind of fantasy where it's like kingdom and stuff. We basically follow Kestrel, I think is her name. She's the general's daughter. It's a classic where one group of people has conquered and enslaved this other group of people. At the beginning of this book, she's just meandering the kingdom and she comes across this slave auction, and against her better judgment, she decides to impulsively buy one of the slaves at the auction. He kind of piqued her interest because, okay, well, first of all, he's hot, and second of all, he just has this like look in his eye of like a rebel and like has this fire, and it's the romance between the two of them. Forbidden romance. The progression of the relationship was like not insta attraction and insta lovey at all. This book has one of my favorite like relationship progression plot devices ever, which is that the two characters like meet up like once a week or something, scheduled events to like play a game. I don't know if it was chess, maybe it was chess. It was like some kind of like strategy game. They kind of just become each other's confidants and like build like this companionship, and that's always how I like my enemies to lovers. I always want it to be like based off of like a foundation of like trust, companionship. There's like no magic in this, so it's like not hard to understand. Like, it has that addictive kind of writing to it. You can read it in one sitting. I think I almost read it in one sitting actually. Okay, next we have This Is How You Lose a Time War. This book is literally probably like this big. A dystopia. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's one of those books where like if you just accept that you're gonna be confused and like not understand everything, then I think you're gonna have a way better time reading it. Because I was there for the romance, I like was not there for the plot, where there's like these two sides and they each have one agent. We don't know the real names, but their code names are Blue and Red. They can basically go back in time and like tweak things in time in favor of their side. Red and Blue have never met each other. They end up starting to like leave messages for each other, and they start out being like taunting, but then they end up falling in love. See them starting to fall in love and like fall in love through their letters, and they start leaving all these like bare pining, yearning letters everywhere. And the way that these letters are like left, they go so hard. The commitment, they will do things like leave letters on like the wings of like a dragonfly, like things like that. You just need to leave your sense at the door when you read this book. These letters are so poetic and like really it's giving like, oh my gosh, it's giving like the forbidden love romantic letters of like soldiers like in World War II. Okay, next is an honorable mention because I haven't finished this book, but it does fall into this trope, Powerless. Okay, look at who's the author. Lauren Roberts. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is like such a classic enemies to lovers and a fantasy. Like, I think it will really itch the spot if you want one with like the romance being a bit more on the forefront. There's like this plague. People either die or they got powers. Those people with powers are called elite. And basically what happened is that anyone who's not an elite, they're called ordinaries. There's been this kingdom-wide massacre. We follow our main character. Her name is Peyton, and she's actually an ordinary faking being an elite in order to survive by saying that she's a psychic when she's actually just like a Sherlock Holmes like Benedict Cucumber Patch. And then we follow, what was his name? Kai. His name is Kai. He can like sense what powers other people have. Every year there are like these games, like these trials, and I love a fantastical trials trope. Peyton gets picked and then Kai is also in the trials. I DNF'd this book like a little bit ways into it. I think the romance was just too in the forefront for me. I know that like that's not the majority of people. Like I think that the majority of people would actually really like this book. I am just difficult. Okay, the next books are gonna be contemporary. I'm gonna zoom through these because first of all, I think a lot of them are quite popular. Second of all, I'm like not crazy about any of them. First, we have She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan. This is a sapphic enemies to lovers in a high school sports romance between a basketball player named Scotty and then a cheerleader named Irene. Previously at like this party, there was just like classic this encounter that happened, and then because of that they just like didn't have the best first impression on each other. And then it's the classic like fake dating kind of trope. They get into like a car accident in the parking lot, and because of that they need to start carpooling together. Scotty pitches them like fake dating because Scotty wants to make her ex-girlfriend jealous. My favorite part about this book though was everything like emotional about it. Heartbreak, self-confidence, a lot of healing. Next we have Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel and Solomon. This is a academic rivals to lovers story. Rowan and Neil, they've basically always been like the top students at their school. It takes place on the last night of their senior year of high school. There's like this tradition in this town where everybody participates in like this big scavenger hunt game across the city. They kind of have this temporary alliance for that night to like work together because they both need the money. Obviously that's how they start talking to each other. You're just in Rowan's point of view, and I like seeing Rowan start to notice Neil, start to objectify him. She kind of has to admit to herself that she starts liking Neil. I just really like that. Like I love seeing them in denial. Next we have Not Here to Be Liked. Again, takes place in a high school. We have our main character Eliza, and then she kind of has this hatred towards the guy named Len. She wants to be like the editor-in-chief of like her school paper. Len just like joins the paper on a whim, and then he gets elected, and it makes her like have girl hatred. It's not the year of the Ken movie. Anyway, because of this, she blames sexism. In her anger, she writes like this secret manifesto that accidentally gets published in the paper, and then it starts this like whole feminist movement at her school that apparently she's like the face of now, except for the fact that her and Len are also on assignment together. They have to spend time together, and then against her better judgment she starts falling in love, but it's like has to be a secret because then she would be like impeached from like being part of this feminist movement. The main reason that I like this book was because Len is literally just here for vibes. I really liked him. Like, he's so chill and so low-key. He literally never asked for any of this. Like it kind of reminds me of the next book I'm gonna recommend, which is If You Could See the Sun by Anne Liang. This is again academic rivals to lovers in a high school. If you can't tell, I don't like enemies to lovers and contemporaries, but if I do, it's gonna be an academic rivals to lovers. This takes place in like this elite international boarding school in Beijing, and our main character Alice is like on scholarship there. When her scholarship is like threatened, she's like crying and throwing up. She randomly starts like disappearing one day, like turning invisible. It's kind of like magical realism. So she obviously wants to girl queen, girl boss, monopolize, monetize on this and get her cash money. And so she goes to Henry, who's like her biggest academic rival at this school. Like he's like rich and popular and good looking and like really well liked, but she ends up going to him because he's like good at programming and stuff. Oh my gosh, my battery's gonna run out. Can I go one video without my battery running out? That's the real question. Okay, we're back. But she basically asked Henry to help her develop an app that people can put in anonymous requests for her to like, I don't know, just like do her snake stuff. Being able to turn invisible, she can like eavesdrop on people or like steal things and things like that, which obviously is very morally gray, but honestly like you gotta respect the hustle. Like sorry we're not part of the 3%. Obviously because of like their little business deal that they have going on, they end up spending more time together, becoming friends, falling in love, all that good stuff. Again, I like this book because we have the trope of like Alice having to admit to herself that she has feelings for Henry, and Henry is just here for the vibe. The Kenergy is there. Next we have the two Emily Henry books that I've read, two enemies to lovers. We have Beach Read and Book Lovers. Beach Read is two authors, forced proximity because they end up being neighbors, academic rivals in college, I think. Like she just didn't like him because he made a bad first impression. But then they end up striking this deal where they will exchange genres and then they'll help each other write each other's genre. Obviously by spending all this time together, they start falling in love. And then Book Lovers is kind of similar. It's between a literary agent and an editor. Again, bad first encounter a couple years back. Nora, when she goes to like the small town with her sister to escape, turns out that Charlie lives there. Family owns a bookstore there. And then they start spending a lot of time together, and then they end up falling in love. And then the last one is Red, White, and Royal Blue. The movie just came out, so everyone go watch the movie and then go watch my video of me watching the movie. This is the enemies to lovers between the son of the President of the United States. And then the Prince of England, Prince Henry, bad first impression a couple years back. They just always like had this rivalry between them, like they just didn't like the other person. Just romantic and sexual frustration. At the royal wedding, they accidentally ruined the royal wedding cake because of an argument that they have, and because of this huge PR loss, they have to pull the biggest PR stunt ever and have a fake friendship with each other. And so they have to spend time together. They start texting and they end up actually forming a friendship, and then they start forming a romantic relationship. Actually, no, that's a lie. They start sneaky linking first. This does have the best angsty love confrontation, love confession in the rain scene I've ever read. It was like amazing. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Okay, yeah, I think that's the perfect timing because my AC just turned on. But I think that's gonna be the last book that I recommend in this video. You give me cookie, I give you cookie. Please put your book recs down below for an enemies to lovers, preferably slow burn, subplot romance, enemies to lovers, and a fantasy or dystopia. That's gonna be all for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. I have so many book trope recommendation videos all planned out. I just like have not had the time to like film or edit them. So yeah, subscribe if you want to see those. Follow me on my socials. They're all linked in the description. And I'll see you all in the next one. Good fortune, Toby.